Hello everyone. So in this session we are going to be discussing inheritance, and we've already done a program on inheritance, but I just wanted to talk a bit more about it before we move on to the next topic. So let's take an example, and let's say we have something like a vehicle class, and for me a vehicle is just anything that has uh, position and velocity. So I'm just going to say speed, so position and speed. And I've got subclasses of this here. So I've got, let's say, two subclasses. I've got a car here, and I've got a bicycle here. So when we do this, both car and bicycle have position and speed because they've both inherited from the vehicle class, so they're going to both have these two attributes. But in case of a car, we could have something like an additional attribute, which is the fuel capacity. And in case of a bicycle, fuel capacity does not make sense because there's going to be no fuel in our bicycle, so we don't need this attribute in the bicycle class. So this is one simple example of inheritance. And one important point that I mentioned in the last video as well, and I want to mention again, is that constructors are not inherited. So constructors not inherited. And another thing that's not inherited is static methods. So static methods and fields not inherited. So that's another thing. And um, okay, one more thing that I want to talk about is we could have an object of type vehicle, and that could contain a car. So what I mean by that is I could have something like this: a vehicle V is equal to a new car. This is perfectly valid because V is a vehicle. Now, a vehicle could be a car, a bicycle, anything. I could later also make V to be a new bicycle or some existing bicycle or something like that. And the other way around is not allowed. So we can have a class that is higher in the hierarchy hold a class that is hold an instance of a class that is lower in the hierarchy, but not vice versa. And all right, now that we have some understanding of inheritance, I just want to mention one point, that Java does not allow multiple inheritance. So Java um, does not allow multiple inheritance, which means that one class can only inherit from one single class. Not just that, uh, Java forces a class to have one and only one parent. And of course, this sounds a bit absurd because we just made classes without a superclass at all. But the thing is, when we make any class without us mentioning it, it actually inherits from a special class, which is the java dot java dot lang dot object. This is the parent class of all classes that we create. So any class that we create without mentioning a superclass actually inherits from this class. So it's true that Java forces a class to have one and only one parent class. So uh, I think that's it about inheritance. Before I finish up this video, I just want to clear a doubt that a lot of people ask me. So, in the last video, we had something like a private int width and height. And what I've been asked multiple times is, why do I make this private? Why, if I'm having trouble accessing this later, why not just make it public? So this is where encapsulation comes in. Encapsulation is protecting data, controlling who has access to what data. Let's just understand this through a hypothetical example. We were doing something with a rectangle class, right? So let's say I'm making an operating system and all my windows are rectangles, and I don't want my windows to be resizable. So uh, in this hypothetical operating system, my windows are not resizable. They can either be full screen or they can be they can be minimized or closed, but there's nothing in between. There can't be smaller windows. So I want someone to I want to avoid someone from doing something like width equals say width minus 1, something like this. I don't want anyone to be able to do this, because then my window would be resizable. Or if someone actually sets the width to, let's say, the screen size divided by 2, that would make the window half the screen size, and I don't want that in my operating system. So that's why I would always keep this as private, and I'll only give access to these via methods that I want to give control to these attributes. So I could have something like a minimize method. So I have minimize, and what the minimize does is that it sets both of these to 0 equals 0. And uh, there could be a close method as well, which could also do this, but minimize and close would probably work a bit differently. So these can then only be set to 0 or their full value, which could be something like a maximize method, but they should not be able to set these to anything between 0 and the maximum value. So I want to stop that, which is why we often make attributes private, and uh, we give access to these attributes via methods only. So I think I'll wrap up this video, and in the next video we're going to be starting a very important topic, which is representing our project, our entire program in uh, some diagrams. There's a standard modeling language for that. We're going to be talking about that in the next video. So I'll see you.